But being film today, you have to get serious and put this out, having a serious conversation about, they don't really care about us. And, a lot of things and activities that we have in Chicago and stuff. And a lot of people want to get emotions out there. And we're trying to figure out how to unite different struggles together. So we got some very decent, distinguished guests that's going to be speaking. I'm going to say, introduce them and stuff like that. Talk a little bit about themselves, and some of the things that who they are and what they do. And so just so people know what we're going to start with the colleagues. Then I was going to go with Jay, Chairman Jay on the end, with Brother Suleiman, and then Shay to drill at the end. And so, hope people got their phones on silent. And we're going to start off with the colleague who's going to introduce himself and tell you all about what he's doing and why he wanted the two focal parties, don't care about us. That's it.
Peace and love, everyone. I said peace and love, everyone.
Peace and love,
Yeah. Yes, sir. My name is Mr. Cox. Well, we are just here in Milwaukee, but I'm really here from Chicago. And we've been doing a lot of organizing work all over the country. A lot of the issues that we organize around is mass incarceration, police involved injustice, and racial inequality. We believe that a threat to justice anywhere is a threat to justice anywhere. And as the President of all this time, Wisconsin, we counter all of those issues. We often pick up the issues that people don't want to deal with. They're too afraid to conquer. And one of the things that we do is we do that quite frequently. And a lot of the work that we do around the youth, we work with the youth in Milwaukee as well, chapter president of all this is done, and also Secretary of the Attorney. I'm also the executive director of the Attorney, which is a nonprofit lifestyle, and I have one from prison. I did 15 years ago. I was the youngest person in the country, arguably in Wisconsin, to go to prison straight from the age of 15 years old, straight from prison. I was then later put into subjugation by the government for 10 years in solitary confinement. I spent 10 years straight, 24-hour lockout, as well as no air, no room to breathe, nothing, concrete, and a lot of things, 7 years around the area. One of the people in there with me was the person who killed Jeffrey Dahmer and put me in that place with him. I was 18 years old. This prison was a prison to hold what they called at that time the worst in the country, criminals, and at 15 years old, I was possible to be the worst of the worst, and then activity wasn't anything like that. So when I came home, the government tried to recruit me to work for them, and I did not. They made me a big there in my spare time. And I continued to move across the country, helping marginalized communities fight for their freedoms, and give them the courage to do so, and not be afraid to stand up to corrupt politics and to stand up to those particular people who are oppressing their own communities. So the main thing that we look at is becoming the voice of the voiceless. I'm making sure that justice brings balance to everyone and not just some. And that's partially why I'm here today to talk about those things.
Chairman Jay of the White Panther Party. We are for the African Black Panther Party is lying in the Black community in our office to organize the White community for liberation of all communities. In this work, trying to build an power as capitalist system that entails things like guardians, things like cooperatives, hardships like the march that's happening at the DNC. And in light of that march, one thing that this country has needs is it's an alternative political structure. It's its own vehicle or organ for liberation that's going to take on. A revolution will be a vanguard for all of everybody, this is I'm Suleiman Smith. Actually from Milwaukee. My brother is Smith, by police in 2016. Ever since he was killed by police, I've been trying to fight and put a ban on police immunity. I feel as law, so in my efforts to do so, I'm going to continue breaking barriers and acting as the president of the youth chapter. Now I have over 800 kids in my program. We organize food bag drives, we do a lot of community outreaches as far as like feeding the homeless, health lives. We do actually the largest food bag drive in our city. We consider that education is something we consider to be very important. We give away over 1,500 food bags each year here in the community of my brother Smith. We just want to take his name out of the Bible and have it in our city. Hundreds. Gas stations, things turned down, food spots, and it's just something that's happened, but his name is something. It's not a legacy that I want to remember him now. We show that in the community, and we leaders still stand and show them. So that's what we do as a community. The same day still on 13, so we do our biggest event on the backyard. This year, I hope to have you all come through. And we actually did a revolution in the city of Milwaukee, surrounding the death of George Floyd. We marched over 378 days to the state of entertainment and member of laws, getting a ban on chokeholds, a ban on alcoholics, and also police from our school systems. Just considering the fact that our kids fight in school, they're not sent home with suspensions, they have hypervised prison, sometimes bad charges. We just feel it's not equal, I guess, punishment, some sense. So, we stand against all forms of justice. That's one of the reasons why
And just briefly who I am, because when you're 16, you don't want to say much in life. Maybe I have a few more decades. Anyway, I am Sherry Concola, and I've been helping to feed, clothe, and house and people for over 40-some years, and have about 200 arrests, none of which I wanted, including 6 months daily reporting federal probation for obstructing the view of the Liberty Bell with homeless people. Can't really believe that would happen, but it happened. So that's why I was so used to the Liberty Bell. Remember that story.
That's what they told us, we don't have the right to speak out between 5th and Market and 6th and Market.
So those are our introductions.
You can say a little bit more about your work.
Okay. So then we'll go back around. Okay. So, we have a march coming up, July 15th, on opening day of the Republican National Convention. Our rally is going back to the year 2000. We've organized the largest marches on opening day of both the Republican and Democratic National Conventions. We always start our marches at 4 p.m. and there's a reason we start them at 4 p.m. It's rush hour, the whole world is there, and as far as we're concerned, these are the issues that everything needs to stop. And so a little bother, traffic is not as important as shot, people dying from drug overdoses, people not having a place to live, people being murdered in Gaza, and the list goes on. And then on August 19th, here in Chicago, on opening day again at 4 o'clock, the city of Philadelphia, the city of Chicago has given us a permit to march on opening day at 4 o'clock. Do we just believe that we got that permit because it was a technical error? Well, who knows? We got it, and we're going to use it. We're going to march our exact march route that we sent in, which goes all the way up to the front doors of the Democratic National Convention. At both the Republican and the Democratic National Convention, we are going to be holding mock trials to find out if the Republicans and the Democrats are guilty of crimes against humanity. If they're guilty of crimes against humanity, we will be serving them with arrest warrants. So, of course, the police will rush in and assist us in getting those arrest warrants. What do you think? I mean, if I can get 6 months of daily reporting from probation for obstructing the view of the Liberty Bell with homeless people, certainly they can arrest people for crimes against humanity. So those are our plans. Also, the day before our march here in Chicago, we have a concert with a very diverse group of musicians, including Andy here, and rappers, and all different kinds of music. And we want to encourage people to come to that concert the night before. And then beginning on, what is the date? We will begin a 2-week march, August 3rd. We will begin a march each and every day, going a total of 90 miles, marching from Milwaukee to Chicago, and we will sleep wherever we possibly can. So we will sleep in parking lots, maybe some churches, union floors, wherever we possibly can, and we always bring our children. And so people should be encouraged to come on this march, even if you're not in good physical shape, because we as poor and homeless people in this country are not in good physical shape by and large. And so we'll have vans and different people caravanning and making sure that after every 12 blocks, we have a vehicle that is there for people to get into, making sure that we have some water or juice or whatever in order for people to continue to make that next mile. But Galen intends to do the entire march, marching there and back.
Yes, I will. But all that notion, we know the Democrats and the Republicans don't care about us. That's kind of where our theme is. And what are some of the work people are doing in that neighborhood or things that they got coming up? That I'm sure that they're working on and educating people on the fact that these whole departments care about us. So we can show what you're doing good plan.
Sorry, what was the question? They say the problem about all the injustices they perpetrate. You can just look at the most basic costs that hit the average family costs for every single price of There's no particular reason other than price gouging why that should be the case. That it costs the pump. I mean, what about costs? These things actually end up getting people. I mean, for example, if somebody can't afford insulin, what happens? They die. Or they find it somewhere else. And, that can kill them. They might get it off the street, whatever it is, right? But that's just one example. there are a myriad of reasons why they don't care about us. I mean, if, like, for example, housing, this is one of my favorite examples. If you didn't have a market for housing, then people would get their housing by another mechanism, right? So they would go to the government, wherever, right? Sign a house. Okay, well, when you have a market for housing, then that means that people who can't afford it don't have houses. What happens to them? They freeze to death. They overheat and have a stroke. Go on and on. All of these ways in which we feel that they don't care about us are born out of the fact that markets are like in all aspects of our life and continually so. So that's really, at least my view on this. It has the expectation of the people, whatever. I don't know.
One of the things that we're doing in Milwaukee is, well, let me give you a little bit of education about Milwaukee. Milwaukee is the state, it's in the state of Wisconsin, and it is the city that has the most demographic that is so-called Black, Latino, and other people of color of the whole state. Everywhere else, those people are represented by 5% or less. In Milwaukee, they are about 37 to 47%. That population that we're talking about African Americans, but we're talking about combining all the people of color, we're looking at about 64 to 67%. It is also the worst place in the country for African American boys to live. It is also the city where there is the worst incarceration rate in the country for so-called African American people. The worst in the country from the one zip code 5346. Also has the second highest incarceration rate of Black women in the country per capita. So this city has been plagued with poverty, violence, etc., for the lack of politicians of race. They are taking hands on the table, they allow foreigners to come in and do as they wish. So we are in a city where everything is at the worst of the worst. It's kind of like they call it the mini Chicago. So what we are doing is we want to educate the people. A lot of people don't invest in the people in Milwaukee, and politicians and the people there, they all have these hidden agendas. So what we're doing is the People's First Convention. We're putting the People's First, and it's also the very first convention where the people are out front and they are able to get the answers to their own questions from people who are running for the highest office in the country, which is the presidential office. They don't know about third-party candidates. They only think that they're Trump and Biden selections. So what we want to do is provide a platform where we're trying to get as much people, as many people there. We're going to have workshops, we're going to have town hall discussions, there are going to be performances, there are going to be various people coming out. I can't tell you everybody that's coming out now, but there'll be some big names coming to this. But I believe that investment in that alone is going to, one, educate people about third-party candidates. Two, give them some sigh of relief that they don't have to choose continually between the lesser of two evils. Because there's no such thing as the lesser of two evils. If a person killed 1,000 people versus 2,000 people, I don't know that person. I don't know how they call that person a lesser evil person. These people are doing the same thing to people inside and all of the different things. So if they are engaged in crimes against humanity, they should not be running for the highest office in the country. I think it's preposterous to allow this to happen. And for everybody to be under such a slumber, to not want to do something to stand up at this time. It's very crucial for us to stand together and act together. So if we all get behind these third-party candidates, especially in a city that's plagued with such poverty and all of the lack of opportunities, lack of Milwaukee. One man said this, and I'm going to pass it to my beloved. One man said this, and it was Elijah Muhammad said this in 1931. He said, if you can get the people of Milwaukee to wake up, you can get the whole world to wake up. So it tells you about the deep slump that the people are under in Milwaukee. So if we can target Milwaukee and get them to understand, open their eyes, they will be able to save themselves. That's what we want to do. Liberate them by giving them the education to liberate themselves.
I'm gonna back up to what we said. Based on the fact that we're the number one incarceration rate for black men, that means every 8 out of 10 black men in the world go to jail. They've been arrested, detained, or stopped for something that doesn't have anything to do with anything, just literally the color of their skin. Number one in segregation, that's most definitely. You can go as far as downtown, you will see all white. And you can go literally maybe a bridge up the street, you'll see Hispanics. You can go maybe 2 blocks from there, you'll see all black. And this is exactly how the city is designed. It's broken up in so many ways where the north side is actually controlled by more people of color. The south side is something that's controlled by Latinos. And then you have the west side, which is like a mix of people, but you have more Jewish people on the west side. So it's designed to be the way that it is, for it to be, I guess, the worst place to live. But it doesn't have to bring out the worst place. We have to be able to show that these people are setting us up in a system where they're designing for us to be segregated. This is all in the works of what they have done and have done to do. So what we're going to do with the Green Day Convention, the People's Convention, is we're going to actually have the people of the community coming in and volunteer to put this convention on. This is going to be held in a 389,000 square foot warehouse that we are going to take as a community center for our people. It has a 5-story tower. This is something that 5 years ago it housed 500 employees. But this is something that also, when we received this building, it was something that was given to us as a result of a failed mission of our community want to give it. The inner city itself right now are terrorized. Just last night, I yeah, that's something that's really heavy on my heart, because we don't want it to be like that. Our company, so we have to come together to change that. And if it's taking the people to do this, then what the hell do we do with the government? And if we're actually controlling the government, it's going to take the power of the people. We have to be able to sway the people to understand that they have the power. And we have to show them where the people is going to come. When we provide the treasure, they say we're going to provide to save our country. And that's something we're doing in the city of Milwaukee. It's a shout out. Come swing by, and help join this fight of liberation for us all. Because equality doesn't balance on the scale if it's uneven. So we have to make sure it's an even scale.
So, I guess I'm a little biased, because I ran on my first break ticket. And then I never came back. But I had to go through a major loss of innocence, because throughout my whole life, I swallowed the nonprofit industrial complex pill, and I bought into all their lies. That if we just took enough buses of homeless people to Washington, D.C., if we just sat down and talked to the billionaires and the politicians and begged them to house us, that people would get housed. And guess the end of the story? It never happened. It never happened. And so, like the minister was saying here, the leaders that we're looking for are ourselves. And we need to begin to move from this understanding that there's not enough to go around, and this scarcity theory, to understanding that there's really an abundance, and they're greedy as hell, and we need to get more organize to take those things back. And it's literally a matter of life and death at this point. So the Poor People's Army, we practice a different kind of human rights framework. We say we're alive, we're breathing, and feeding, clothing, and housing ourselves and our children are not up for negotiations. And so each and every day we are prepared to take houses that are empty, take land and reclaim it, feed people, do all of the things that they are not doing, because living, again, is not up for negotiations. This young man said he got his car sold last night. You know, how many cars sit on lots across this entire country? How many people don't have access to transportation? They really want us to buy into this scarcity idea, right? They want us to buy into this idea that we have to sit on waiting lists. There's not enough to go around. There is plenty to go around. And we've got to erase that out of our minds and say, as long as we are a child of God, Allah, whoever, that we have those basic human rights, and we need to begin to get organized to take back these basic necessities of life. So, we have been taking over houses. You'll never hear about it on CNN. We'll never be on the front page of the New York Times. You will never hear about it because it's a growing underground movement in this country of poor and homeless people ourselves that say that living on the streets and dying in the winters in Chicago or Milwaukee or any place else is not going to happen anymore, because we are instituting a zero tolerance on homelessness. So trying to convince us that what we need to do is build these little tiny houses and adjust to a lower standard of living, no. There's more abandoned houses than there are homeless people in every single city across this entire country. And we need to put the two of those things together. So we've written a book. It's gone up online right now. There's pre-orders. It's called The Human Rights Approach to Housing. It's called Takeover. And in that book, in the front of the book, it says some of the things in this book are real and some are fake. Just because we don't want some of us our lives in the penitentiary. But if you read the book, you might get infected with the idea that there's nothing to go around. You might decide that homelessness is your city. And put those two things together. It's a step-by-step manual on how to house people if you want to end homelessness in your city. So I just want to say one more quick thing about not believing in the Democrats and Republicans, that the nonprofit industrial complex, what is that? Every 4 years, right before election time, that's when your politicians remember you. No. That's when they remember that they need to get you out there to get their votes. So they have a lot of what's called soft money. So if you begin to speak out about reproductive rights, we're going to give you a bunch of money so you can shut up. If you're going to begin to talk about this issue or whatever, we're going to give you money for your organization, for you to shut up. And so that's what they do. And sadly, they began this process with Mayor John Street, who used to be our mayor. They came up with this idea about how do we buy the churches. And so, in major ways, they buy many places of faith right before election time. The church, I want to fix my roof, so I'm going to take the money from my city council person or whatever, and I'm going to get out the vote for the very people that the minister talks about. That is the evil that we're facing. Telling us, like, for this $20,000, we will no longer talk about the genocide happening in this country or in Gaza. We will not talk about nonprofit industrial complex. you will lift up a two-party system that doesn't give a damn if we live or die. And in order for you to get that regular money, that's what they will continue to do. So we're excited about this convention that's happening in Milwaukee. We're excited about our marches. We've got to erase these ideas out of people's heads, remind people there's enough. We just got to get organized as a people and take this back.